What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another Skywatch update cover. We are on number 16 already, and man, it is getting exciting. So I want to start off by saying that this video that you just watched was a clip of a small part of the dev's latest build of Tutorial Island, showing off some of the different monuments, assets, mechanisms, foliage, and even fog, enshrouding the different parts of the island, which absolutely look insane. So today we are going through a load of new stuff, ranging from showing new tools, technology made by both Saborian and Gall people, learning how the Gall's language actually works, and even someone who built Alcatraz, which will all make sense soon enough. So without further ado, let's get straight into the works. First up, from the character team, character customization is now in the early stages of development, and the latest game build was shared with the open development community. And with the still work in progress character creator, so far, they have added some options for different hair types, as well as body type selection and its associated UI. So they give us this image here showing off the 4 options they implemented for now, with female body types, and I guess they have about the same for male as well, but we see options here for 2 types of short white hair, a red-headed bun style, and a fully braided black hairstyle. Next up, we get a bunch of different images of the dev's feminine variation and male variation concepts, showing off some of the different modeling options, all of which have amazing detail, but even showing the different drawn-up art for both the clothing and hair that they could go with for each. Where here we have the first female model with long black hair and a kind of like line buzz cut set on the side, and some of the framing for her clothing. And then for the male one here, showing off the short white hairstyle with some blue face paint and some coloration on clothing shade as well. Finally, from the character team here, we are given an image of the Saborian rifle and shotgun models, with the rifle actually being shown in a character's hand in a resting position, which shows off all the small detail in the environment. The same of which goes for the shotgun here, which has just as much detail in its design with tons of detailed ridges and slits, which give it a distinct futuristic look. Another thing of mention though is the same symbol on both of the guns. We saw a similar crystal-like symbol on the prefab ship's open canopy asset in the previous Skywatch, which at first jogged my mind a little bit about why it would be that the Saborians had designed the ship assets, when it seemed that the Gall tech was much more prevalent in more advanced ship and construction related items. But don't worry, the hints at what happened between the Gall and Saborians get much more interesting. Next up, we have a couple things from the shipbuilding team. The hologram effect in the shipbuilder has been made more transparent. Apparently, some people thought that the blue panels would have collision and could be walked on when it wasn't actually built, which, obviously wasn't the case. So to counteract this misconception, they made the panels more see-through and holographic to make it less likely that this would be misunderstood. And right on from there, we get a video of the shipyard collision. Essentially now the shipyards are made to open up with consideration of nearby objects, where you can see the arms interact with nearby blocks in this video and stop opening at certain points depending on the object, as well as its height and shape, which I think gives a bit more realistic aspect to the actual opening animation. It just kind of makes more sense for how it would look like when you place it in the environment. Now, second to that, for those interested in the lore, keep in mind that the shipyard was Saborian, but also back in Skywatch 14, we saw the new shipyard bubble, which, if we cross-reference that with the previously mentioned Gall material, follows the exact same design as the bubble. Now, from this information, it gave me a few ideas, more or less guesstimations, about what the relationship between the Gall and Saborians could have been like. And before I go into why, there is a few more things I want to go over here that kind of led me to be more convinced of this. So for now, we'll move on. Lastly, from the shipbuilding team this week, we get a gray box model for the research table, which is not provided with any more information about how exactly it might work, but it seems to have some grayish black or reddish beige coloring, as well as a lot of finer details on the sides and top. Next up, we have the makings of the Gall language itself, which is a lot to digest here. First, to help explain it somewhat, the image here shows the Gall kanji-styled scripts on the left, which was some random shape exploration that could be possibly applied later, where on the right, the Gall script spells out Lost Skies, which follows the structure of the script using the equation and rules. Now, the important thing here is that these styles were based off of Japanese kanji and a mixture of Egyptian hieroglyphs. So moving on, these next images kind of explain how you convert lettering with yes/no equations, which explain how you connect these shapes to represent the letters that you want. And while I understand this is very confusing, even to me, the structure I think is most important here is that you look at this test symbol. And in terms of how you read it, you start at the center, your point A, then you move directly up to your point B, then follow a clockwise direction of reading. Now, if we skip down to the connected lettering, we are given a grid on the left which shows all of the different represented letters of the alphabet and the symbol within the Gall writing that goes with it. So here we know that this whole symbol will spell Lost Skies. So we'll start at the center of the first top circle, move up to our point B, then read clockwise. We encounter our first symbol, which on the left says it represents the letter L, then continuing to letter O, S, and T. We then shift down to the new circle at point A again in the center of the bottom circle, and then first go up to our first letter, which is S, then K, then I, then E, then S. And we can keep referring to this table in terms of reading these different symbols. And while the way I explained it is a clear oversimplification and is not fully accurate to how it actually works, that was the way that I was able to interpret it. So to any of you watching who want to take a closer look at all these images and notes on the language itself, I will have the Skywatch posted in the description below. And if you think you found a better way to think about reading it, post in the comments, because personally I would love to be able to fully understand and write with the language. So I do plan to take some time and try and learn it better later this week, because I think being able to do so will help make for some interesting discovery options within the game. Say possibly when the island creator for Lost Skies is open to the public, it would be cool to see islands that have puzzles where you might have to decipher the transcript itself, which may give hints on how to either unlock certain loot spots or puzzles, or even if not that, they could tell different stories about the history, lore, or religious beliefs of the Gaul people. And I think there's just so much that could be done with this that it makes me really excited to see what they're going to develop with this in the future. Moving on to the art team. First up, we have some stunning illustrated 4K wallpapers, which have been done by Jonathan Betts. The landscapes themselves were inspired from the tutorial island in the latest build of the game. So if you want to get a better look and even download these, you can right-click them on their page, get a full screen view of them. And I have to say, Jonathan, this looks so good. Genuinely, you did an amazing job, my friend. Now, I want to point out that in the second image of Jonathan's here, you may have noticed the large crashed ship. This, my friends, is supposedly the Ark, which we have only had mentioned to us once or twice before, without much explanation, but they do go on to recap here and explain that when you begin playing Lost Skies, you'll spawn inside of a crashed Ark ship. The Arks were used as Gaul lifeboats essentially, and they were tended to preserve humanity after the destruction of the old world. That is all they give us lore-wise in that regard, but now we have something to visualize conceptually when we're talking about the Ark itself. Next to that, we have a conceptual piece for the Ark computer, which has a very detailed design that seems almost alien to anything I've seen, but has those same Gaul glyphs engraved around the rim of the computer itself. And while there isn't anything explained for what it might be used for, it could be just that it is a terminal for opening doors within the Ark, possibly crafting or learning specialized parts, or something else entirely. Next, we have an image of the UI icons that the team's UI artist has been working on. We are shown a ton of different food options and food ingredients, as well as what looks like a rusted pistol icon, some handheld screen icons, and what looks like a set of fused parts of some kind, with 3 different colorations of gray, green, and blue, which might represent tier selections of what looks like propellers for engines, maybe in whatever menu we might use to select parts to build. Just my guesses though. Next, we move on to concept art for the scanning spike, which will be used to scan resources on an island that you encounter, which has multiple different variations that they are considering design-wise. Something I would like to mention here though is that in the corner we see the notes explaining how the spike uses Gaul tech and how it will have a thumper mechanism with accompanying glowing effects for its animation, as we can see in the drawings and sketches. Now, going back to what I mentioned before, for those also curious about the lore, I want to say here that they have another important note here at the top saying, quote, all Saborian parts would be clasping Gaul tech. This, I think, is a huge hint as to what the relationship of the Gaul and Saborians may have been like. And as I read this, it made me think hard. First off, we know that the Saborians were obsessed with godhood. They believed that they were above all else. Yet, here we are, knowing, looking back at the past Skywatches, that the Saborians' shipyard will create a Gall-style bubble. Second to this, we know now that the Gall creation disk is what will be used to modify the ships that we make. Not only that, but we now know that the scanning spike will be Gall tech, but have Saborian tech clasping it. This led me to consider a handful of possibilities. One, it's possible that the Saborians and Gall society were alive at the same point in time, and that the Saborians managed to take control of the Gall civilization, as so far we have been shown Saborian weapons like the shotgun and rifle, but nothing from the Gall in terms of weapons. This led me to believe that since the Saborian tools seem to be using Gall tech, which is clearly more advanced than Saborians, and that they may have forcefully taken control of the Gall and stolen, or in some other way used, Gall advancements to make their tools better. 2. Another possibility is that the Gall was an advanced civilization that was ancient. It's possible they existed far before the Saborians, and either were killed off by whatever destroyed the old world, and that the Saborians came across the Gall tech by chance, and decided to learn how to integrate it into their tools. This simultaneously making them feel superior above all other societies, in which the end of the Saborians may have come from conflict with another civilization or by internal conflict in their own society, which led to self-destruction. Now, it's possible that the truth could be neither. But what conflicts me on this is the fact that the Gall tech was so well integrated into the Saborian tools that it seems hard to believe that they were not both in some way existing near or around the same time. And it doesn't give me the impression that the Saborians came across this incomprehensible tech they could barely understand, so they built tools that were barely capable of utilizing any of this tech based off of the Gall's ancient machines, but instead feels too well integrated, such that I think it would only make sense that they in some way or another work together. Now, as to the nature of the Saborian society, like I said before, they aren't the type to place themselves as equals to other people, so because of those reasons, I'm leaning more toward the idea that in some way the Saborians forced the Gall to help them develop machines, either overwhelming the Gall with sheer numbers, a larger economy, or any number of reasons, despite the difference in technological advancement. And to top that off, we know that our player will start in a crashed Ark ship made by Gall, which was intended to save humanity after the destruction of the old world, which leads me to believe that whatever destroyed the Saborians must have also destroyed the Gall as well, and possibly the same monstrous beings that we are hinted at within the Lost Skies trailer. But that is just a theory, a game theory. Thanks for watching. I'm kidding, sorry. The next set of images we get is the fully textured cave creature model, which looks very sick, and it has a very detailed set of dimpled rivets, shelled armor-like design from what we saw in the last Skywatch update, but this time with the actual coloration and skin look, as well as a lot of the black and yellow, almost desert-like design patterns that makes it look very menacing. And lastly, from the art team, we have a shot of a red-haired female character thanks to some new cinematic capture tools that were made by one of their developers, Tom Jackson, who helped them capture some of the awesome in-game shots for future promotional material. Now, before we go on to the Island Creator Showcase, from the marketing team, we have some clips the devs put onto their Lost Skies Reddit page, and if you haven't yet seen that, I will play these for you now. First of which is a small clip of the Nautilus walking by in the late evening of a red forest, showing off the walking sounds and subtle growl of the naughty boy. Second to that, we have a clip of the new adjusted day and night cycle time-lapse, showing the very beautiful shadowed effects on the clouds as the sun and moon move across the sky. And lastly, we have a clip from a while back showing the earlier prefab ship flying away from the camera, where you can see the detailed glowing blue jet engines from past Skywatches. Moving on to the showcase, first up we have a community island called the Monorail Express by Ugly. which is a leftover carcass of the Great Saborian expansion. Here we can see all of Ugly's amazing work and detail in designing his trail, as well as the monorail supports. Not only that, but it has an awesome looking bent end where the rail goes straight down into the foggy abyss, with some rail supports still attached to other floating rocks next to the main island, as well as some closer up images of the outside and inside, which reflects the amount of work that was put into making the trail appear more realistic. The last island showcase this week, called Alcatraz by Master Magpie. His depiction reads, an abandoned Saborian prison lost to time. Restore the power to claim the treasure left behind, and maybe discover some secrets along the way. And the first image here, we can see a whole prison from a wider point of view, even showing some smaller floating rocks nearby. We also get to see a bit closer up in the front of the prison, showing off the monolithic Saborian statue, as well as a small piece of some estranged structure on the far right side, whatever that may be. So we'll just have to wait and see until we can eventually explore this mysterious prison. So there was a ton of amazing new stuff in today's Skywatch, and a lot of brand new content. I would say not necessarily info on the lore itself, but more lore related material and even concepts for the Gall glyphs, which were making me nerd out really hard. But nonetheless, I hope you guys have enjoyed this Skywatch as well as my long rants. And to those of you who want to be able to play Lost Skies, for those that have signed up for the open development, a new wave of invites just got sent out, and I am absolutely stoked to see what will unfold in this game's development. And like usual, all the links to sign up for the open development and read more about the Skywatch itself will be posted in the description. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to stop by. It means the world to me. And have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace.